Hello Israel, I'm back again with another video. This Red Planet. I just want to give a shout out to my YouTube family and just say much love from me to you. Keep up the good work. I think you're doing really good. The truth is being told, and we are just doing the damn thing. That's what I can say. I'm sure the Most High is impressed. All praises to the Most High. Let's get into this video, Israel.
To a great flood. So in spite of these people who are not scientists, I'm going to discuss this. I'm going to discuss the flood and the fallen angels. How many of you think that there are fallen angels locked up in Antarctica? How many? Have you heard of this? Do you really want to know? Do you really want to discuss this? Well, let's get it. So I have recently discussed the Book of Enoch. I've talked about the fallen angels, how they descended to earth to corrupt man in an attempt to destroy us. After taking human wives, their wives gave birth to giants, the Nephilim. And they began to sin against birds, and against beasts, and against reptiles, and against fish, and they devoured one another's flesh, and drank the blood from it. Now what does that mean, to sin against an animal? The mixture of animals of one species with the other, perhaps? Can you imagine what kind of creatures would be running around back then? You see, you look at a dinosaur and go, wow, look at the amazing things God has created. God? Do you really think God created these monsters? Look at this thing. Really take a good look at it. Do you believe that such a creature and others like it would just spawn from nature? Having evolved from what? Let me tell you something. Gradual climate change, which is highly accepted today, by the way, does not make fossils. The animal has to be buried rapidly after death, under sediment and then underwater, because you need that extreme pressure and seal to preserve the corpse for fossilization. And then you ask, well, how long does that take? Oh, millions and billions of years. That's what they say. I say, look, if you're smart enough to count that far back, you should be smart enough to give me an exact number, not some relative date. But that's what they do. You think they're laboratory testing everything? At the majority of these digs, they have to report anything that they find, and as a result, you don't always get to see what they find. You know, they find artifacts such as screws and doorknobs in ancient rock. Archaeologists have recently discovered the imprint of a chariot wheel in a deep mine of the Rostov region of Russia, an ancient sandstone that has said to be over 300 million years old. So either the wheel was around 300 million years ago, or that rock is not 300 million years old. By the way, no one will ever know because they flooded the mine. Now I know what you're thinking, and this is a question that comes up all the time. If men, giants, and dinosaurs all existed in Noah's day, and if they were all killed off by the Great Flood, then how come they haven't found any fossils of men from those days? Oh, but they have. But see, they date those human fossils to be hundreds of thousands of years old. Do you know what they do? They use minerals in the dating of these fossils, and if a particular mineral shows that the human fossil is millions of years old, they say, oh no, that's way too old, let's try another mineral. Then the results show that the human fossil is only a few thousand years old. And then they say, oh no, that's too young. They finally get to a mineral that dates the fossil to be around 100 to 300,000 years old. Then they say, Oh, that sounds about right. That's what they do. Now in the Bible, in the books of Joshua and Samuel, there is mention of the book of Jasher, the book of the upright. Now they say that this book was lost, but it would have been a canonical work if it still existed. What? So they're saying that a canonical book was lost? How many other canonical works were lost? Would God allow for these works to just disappear? I'm sorry, but that smells fishy to me. What's interesting is that there is a work of fiction called the Book of Jasher, and in it are also accounts of the Great Flood. And it states that the righteous men who knew God lived out their lives and died before they would have to witness the flood. In other words, the only ones who were around to be killed by the flood were the Nephilim, their monsters, and whatever evil men that were still left lurking around at that time. Remember, folks, more than half the planet is covered in water. How many archaeological teams do you see digging up the bottom of the ocean? What's down there? Ancient cities, ruins. One of the trending topics today is that the fallen angels, the ones that were bound in the earth, may be imprisoned below the ice of Antarctica. Well, Antarctica is just the land of the lost, isn't it? It's got everything. Penguins, dinosaurs, tiny humans, giant humans, pyramids, aliens, and now the fallen angels. See, I know where this story comes from, and there are people who are trying to find out where these fallen angels were imprisoned. And I say, who gives a crap? Those angels were bound. They've got their own problems. What do these people think? They're just going to one day dig up a hole and discover a bunch of angels chained up underground? Trust me, they're going to find death before they find anything of the sort. The Watchers. What about the 1/3 of the angels that fell with Lucifer? They weren't tied up. They are not bound. And we are talking about what could be thousands of them. Here, walking around the earth. Doomed, of course. And they know that they are doomed. And so they teach people things. They reveal secrets. And everything that was taught to man back in the days of Enoch and Noah have been taught to man again. And it's worse than ever. People say, oh, look at the things we can do. No, look at the things that we've done. We've lost all morality. People today, they look the other way when someone approaches them to teach them about God. They don't want to hear it, because all that interferes with their ability to go out and party, to get drunk and do drugs and have sex with whoever and whatever. It dampens their ability to listen to whatever music they want to listen to and to see whatever movie they want to see. Look, people are entertained by the idea of fallen angels being locked up in Antarctica. I don't know anything about any fallen angels being bound in Antarctica. There were 200, and for all we know, they could be everywhere. I will say this. One of the worst places on the planet to be right now is right along the river Euphrates. Biblical texts state that 4 of the fallen angels were bound underneath the Euphrates River. Turkey, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates. There is apparently a lot of oil there, which means there was and is a lot of death there. Should it surprise you? It may have been the best place on earth at one time, but you can't imagine the amount of horror stories that come out of this region. The anomalies. I mean, this place is on fire, and you know what happens when you get too close to a fire. Why do you think there are so many people there that want to leave? Can you blame them? Go look. Go look at the Syrian horror stories, their civil war, the systematic destruction of children. Do you know how many children in Syria go missing or are murdered? Do you know how many child Syrian refugees disappear after supposedly fleeing to areas such as Europe? The numbers, my friends, are insane. Go read up on the Gate of Hell in Turkey. There are places like this around the world. How many of you know of the 14,000 meter deep well in Siberia? a hole that was dug back in the late 1980s. After taking temperature readings of the bottom of this well, they discovered the temperature was an astounding 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Not only that, but they sent down audio recording equipment to record the sounds of tectonic plate movement, but instead, they recorded what sounded like human voices screaming in agony. Listen. Interestingly enough, the scientists also reported witnessing a luminous gas rising out of the hole, and out of this cloud appeared a winged humanoid being. Needless to say, half the scientists quit working on the project. The point is, folks, the days of Enoch, the days of Noah, they may just be stories, but they are good representations of how man is living today. These are the events of the past, folks, but somehow we happen to get right back at it. When you look at organizations such as NASA and CERN, they're smashing particles, learning the secrets of the universe. You know that every time CERN has a new experiment, they rewrite science? That is what they do, and they are good at it. Shooting rockets into the air and exploring space, you think it's human genius. But where do you think these geniuses get their ideas?